How many of you would say that you've witnessed or experienced tensions connected to political differences in the communities within which you're a part? Okay. How many of you have avoided talking with someone about some controversial topic or political issue because you know that they are in a different place than you are? All right. Yeah, we are in an epidemic of a contempt, anger, and siloing with respect to political differences and divides in our country. Studies have found that we are more divided in America today than at any point since the Civil War. Right here in the Driftless is one of the more purple areas in the country, with strong red and blue, living in the same neighborhoods, often going to the same churches, and also many people here who would define themselves as purple or something other. Don't feel like they fit into the two-party system very well at all. So we're going to be doing a few different exercises to really delve into who we are. We're going to give you several minutes to make a list. Moments in your life that most powerfully formed or changed your personal, moral, or political makeup.
I'm at total peace on the river. That's where I spend most of my time because it is honest, basic, and unforgiving. And as a young person, the death of a baby brother, grandpa, and my favorite aunt within a 6-month period when I was 12 years old influenced the rest of my life. That's why I became a paramedic and a firefighter, rescued, saved lives. I'm still willing to lay down my life, if necessary, for a total stranger. I think of all the human traits, the one I treasure most is integrity. If I tell you I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. If I tell you I got your back, I got your back, and that's not going to change. That's pretty much it. So, who's next?
I grew up in a small town, very religious. We were homeless for a while. We were hungry for a while. My parents were too proud to take assistance, and that translates a lot into my politics and my approach. I also identify within the LGBT community as bisexual is probably the easiest term to use. I was suicidal a good chunk of my high school career because I kept questioning why God would make me like this, or why would I just want, in a sense, pray the gay away. So my big formative life was going to college, to be honest, and getting away from my small town and figuring out who the heck I am. And the job that I do now works on seeing people's humanity and seeing them for themselves and all of who they are and what they bring to the table. And I've spent my life seeing how people are not valued by the way they are or for who they are.
I have no idea what your views of the scriptures are, but all the principles are in there as far as relationships, where we value another person ahead of ourselves, where we are good employees with integrity, where we are good bosses who don't lord it over those entrusted to us. I mean, it's just like, aren't those just about everything that we need for life? My parents divorced when I was 10 years old. I didn't know any other kids at that time whose parents are divorced. And I was from the generation where all of a sudden divorce was starting to grow and become rampant, and broken families that we didn't have prior to the 60s and 70s. And so seeing the ramifications and what that's done in our culture, where I end up politically, and it's basically whatever we can do as a society to support strong families. And if we do it right, the way we're meant to, that so many of our other problems wouldn't be where they're at.
I was born abroad in the West Bank, moved to America when I was very young. I was more often excluded from groups in elementary school for a lot of different reasons, whether it was because I didn't play Sega Genesis like they did, or I didn't know who my favorite baseball team was, right? I grew up in a very poor inner city, so I always try to be on the side of the underdog. In college, I started after-school programs. I led bicycle trips with kids, and seeing kids expand their understanding of their communities and where they can go, always, maybe it was a dopamine hit, right? I always wanted to do more for more people.
We're going to do an activity designed to purposefully surface some of the differences and divides that are present in the room, and then we will have an extended conversation on some of the issues that have arisen or some of the things that we know we all care about most.
We're so locked into our parties, and one's going to take the extreme of the other.
Is it one immigrant? Is it 1,000? Like, where do we start to care about the humanity that we're showing other people?
It feels like we all value the autonomy of a mother, and that we all value life in the womb.
I don't think the government has any voice in this. Nobody owes me a living, nobody owes them a living. Earn it.
1% of our population owns 90% of the wealth.
A little voice inside said, this is important to do, so that's why I'm here. I'm supposed to be here.
There is this question around the social safety net, what it offers, and the problems with it. Earlier, several of you focused on a frustration or a critique, but there were differences here.
I believe in a social safety net because I also believe ultimately that I benefit. My security is taken care of not just by cops who stop bad people, but by social benefits that provide food to people who then don't have to go out and rob others in order to eat, right? And in that way, I feel more secure in the society that I live in.
I was a firefighter, paramedic. 25 years I did this. And some people really who are in need, I mean, you feel compassion for them, but other people that just milk the system for all it's worth, I don't think it's right.
I so agree with that. And I just thinking of the analogy of a parent, just how hard it is for a parent to let their kids fail in any way or to be needy in any way. And yet, the more that I continue to do for them and bail them out on things, and the less they're gonna learn important life lessons. And so I think we struggle with that as a society. How do we best care for people, but not do so much that we are inadvertently keeping them in dependency? You know, we're part of a church and we do our best with benevolent fund and helping people. But the other thing we do work really hard at is strengthening families. You know, empower kids to make good choices, that babies are birthed in healthy marital situations, not single, you know, all those kind of cultural things that really do contribute to economic stability.
As Karen was saying there, I think that's important that we teach these kids and then get out of the way as much as you can. Because as long as you're dependent on somebody to do the work for you, why should you do the work? There's no incentive.
This brings up so much.
Yeah.
I don't think our government does enough for the people that live in this country. I think that the way our country was set up to begin with, being on stolen land from people, and then we have built a country on the back of slave labor and continue to in some ways. I really don't feel like most people wake up thinking that I want to be one of these like nags on society. If we're a country built on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but we ensure that most people have no chance at happiness, how are we really upholding any of this?
Something sort of energized me, AJ, that people can't begin to understand sort of the injustices that we live in, and that formed the base and foundation for people who are doing well. And then thinking about, you know, the way that I view the social safety net, and it comes back to something that no one's really said the word much today, but privilege, right? You know, going back to Karen, you talk about helping your children, but realizing that helping them has in some ways hindered them. To which I say, you provided more for your kids than just the things that they wanted, but you probably provided them the tools and the support and the love and the knowledge that if they miss a car payment, you'll support them for that month if they prove that they can pay it for the next month. Whereas there's so many people who, if they miss that car payment, they can't turn to anyone. So there's a privilege that your children also carry with them.
Well, Akram, I don't know anybody, anything. So when I was in junior high school, I got a 50-cent a week allowance. Fantastic. Got into high school, say, Dad, I'm going into high school now, I'll be taking girls out, going to football games, a little more allowance. He said, how much were you thinking? I said, well, $1? Just get a job. And that was the last I was on the dole. Now, if somebody can't work for whatever reason, by all means, we need to support these people every way possible. They deserve a quality of life. But if they can work and they don't want to work or not work much, why in the world should people who have worked their entire life? I started working when I was 13 years old, and I'm still working. I'm a senior citizen, and I'm still out there busting my hump 200 days a year when possible, either doing farm work or herding cattle or guiding. Why should I pay for anybody? Supplement their type of thing.
I think that a lot of times that when people don't work, there are other reasons there, right? Whether they don't know how to interview very well or they don't have the skills. You talked about at 13, you were able to go and get a job because your dad told you to. You used skills that your father probably taught you.
Well, Akram, if this doesn't begin in the home, who's responsible for it?
In a lot of other societies, it's not just the nuclear family unit that's responsible for children, but the collective.
You know, my
society.
dad, when he cut off my allowance, he said, go get a job. He called my uncle, said, hey, I got a worker for you. So I started at the princely wage of $1.25 an hour.
With your uncle?
With my uncle.
Who was looking out for you?
Well, no, he set me straight. This life is not easy, guys. Even though we're living in America, where it's about as easy as it gets, you still got to fight for everything that's worth fighting for.
But I think for some, it is easier. You know, I was a poor trailer trash kid when I was growing up, and we were on some of that assistance. And if you are coming from 3 generations of living off social services, you're not learning that work ethic. So now I have 40 employees because I've worked my ass off to get there. But I was also fortunate enough that my father-in-law had the capability of signing on the dotted line for that first house I needed to get to start my business. And if I wouldn't have had that.
So you're giving recognition to the fact that when you have social networks who are able to help, you have greater likelihood that your work will produce better outcomes.
Yeah, but you also have to be willing to work hard to get there.
But it's not enough?
No.
And what Ted said essentially was like, okay, well, if you don't have those networks, whose responsibility is it? Is it the government's responsibility? And it sounded like, you know, you said, Akram, there's a communal responsibility. Karen, you said, like, we're doing this as much as we can in the church. Whose responsibility is it? What do people think?
I just want to echo that point again. One of our values at church actually is intergenerational relationships. So instead of just the financial and economic handout, we need the older generation teaching the younger generation these work ethic things. We need that hard work of people caring enough to get in there and help these struggling families. Marvin Olasky, the editor of World Magazine, says, social justice is a sum of millions of acts of relational justice. So we tend to think of it as who we vote for, and it's those big things, but it's not. It's those small little things that we do every day to connect and mentor the next generation.
Is there a difference for you if that connecting is enabled by the church and enabled by government
It's
institutions?
probably a both and. It's probably a both and for sure, yeah.
AJ, I heard you express a lot of discouragement, especially about what you called the lack of people's ability to pursue life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Can you imagine things that societally or governmentally could be done that would make you feel like, okay, people do have a fair shot? In your sort of dream, I'm curious how it would actually play out if you could control the levers for a day.
Nobody wants me to answer that question.
Think of the
You do not want me to answer that question. I want people to be in a place where all their basic needs are being met on the daily without having to justify why they deserve to have basic needs. Like, if you're another human being, you deserve to have access to health care, to food, to shelter.
And this whole argument about work ethic, that doesn't...
You're a human
That seems like a
being.
mistake.
Like,
just by virtue of being a human being.
in my opinion, yeah. There are so many times that I've been working my ass off and got nowhere. Like, I just had a conversation with my mother who's been at her job for 20 years and is making $15 an hour. And she's been there forever.
Look at our groups and what you said. I mean, here you have a master's degree, you're highly educated, very intelligent, and you've got a huge student debt. I think you said like $19,000?
Oh, no, $130,000.
$130,000. So, could you vote for a Democrat candidate who says, okay, come on in, free college?
Sure.
So you're,
I want everyone to have access to education.
so you're still willing to eat that $130,000
Yes.
in debt? Whoa.
I know I'm radical. It's
Isn't that putting
scary.
you at a disadvantage?
Yes.
Wow.
I don't want people to struggle as hard after me. I want people to find value in each other and to find value in community. And if that means me sitting here and being in debt the rest of my life while someone else gets a free ride, like, cool. Like, I really hope that when you get that education, you see the value in yourself and what you can give the community. And then that will come back in return for me. I play the long game.
Let's talk about the long game for a second. What about the people that came before you?
What do you mean?
Well, I've been working for 55 years. I still have to work till the day I drop because my pension is diminishing with each dollar.
Just so we're clear on what's
Yeah.
being said here, you're saying, well, I'm still here actually, and the policies you're talking about are going to harm me.
And the money, my earning capacity keeps going down the older I get. I'm wearing out.
I'm also willing to give you what you need.
I don't want you to give it. I've earned it.
It's not about that.
There's, I think, an underlying difference here that's emerging. You're saying in terms of policy, the very problem he's naming, well, that's something we can and should address. That's not right. And it sounded like what you're saying is, I don't want that.
Throw the old dog a bone?
No.
I won't take it.
It's about community. Like, all of our families used to take care of each other. We used to have grandparents that lived in our house, and our parents lived in our house, and we've moved away from that. And with that, we've moved away from valuing our folks who are older than us. Like, it's not about a handout. I should be taking care of you because I value you as a perfect person. And it's not about taking care, because you would have taken care of me when I was younger. And you were doing that by contributing to society as a working person.
There's a fundamental different interpretation of the moral quality of something coming to you from government. There was a sense of integrity and pride that getting more from government undermines that pride as far as you're concerned, undermines that integrity. You're saying absolutely, as far as that's concerned. That is a different interpretation than what AJ is saying, which is government programs should be not demeaning. It's a way to honor people as they're growing older with care. It's like radically different ways of looking at what would happen as government is supporting retirees.
When I hear you talking about community, we need to take care of one another, it sounds like you're mostly saying that means that the government becomes our community. Isn't there also a part of that that then disincentivizes each of us in our own giving, because the government will do it? And in unintended consequences, we begin to lose community because we're no longer obligated to one another in that way because the government will take care of it. And I know I've been guilty of that sometimes. So I'll say, well, they're on food stamps, they're fine. Whereas before we had quite that growth of that safety net, we did just inherently, we took care of our elderly. They were in our homes because we had to, and community was built in.
So you're saying the very community that AJ wants to achieve, if the vehicle is government, people don't rise up to care for one another because you think that this person is being taken care of by this program or that program, and the very social relationships that AJ has returned to over and over again don't actually get invested in.
This is more than just our government, it's our culture, it's our way of life. I don't really want anything to do with how we govern right now, but I'm trying to work with you all to find that solution and really work toward the middle, to be honest with you. As much as I am radical as
socialist.
that's the thing about our country, is we are able to sit down and have these conversations, and I do not take that for granted. I use my voice all the time because I have a right to use my voice, and a lot of other places in the world do not have that right. And so we need to continue to do this because that's what all of the people who came before us died for. That's why, is so we can sit here and have this discourse.
I really appreciate hearing your thoughts and understanding your worldviews and having you listen to mine in a real way. I feel like through these kinds of conversations with people of extraordinarily different belief systems, it is always incremental, it's always forward progress for the betterment of everyone.
It's been really neat to share this with intelligent conversation with people a lot smarter than I am, a lot more perceptive and open-minded than I am. This is just a fine group of Americans, and only in this country could we have such diverse opinions and still have hope. America's best days are yet to come. That's what I take away from this.
I will name my appreciation for this helpful reminder that people of opposing political viewpoints aren't the caricatures that I sort of often assume that they are. It's been a joy for me to encounter people who bring more nuance and complexity to their politics than I sort of lazily assume is true most of the time. So thank you.